The Rhino, the most powerful weapon in the whole Ratchet & Clank universe. In every game, there is a Rhino to go along with it. The only way to obtain this beast of a weapon is to gather all of the pieces of the schematic and have someone build it. Except for the old PS2 games. Those Rhinos just cost an obscene amount of bolts, usually around 1 million or so. Except for the first game from 2002, where it only costs a measly 150,000 bolts. Which got me wondering, could I get the first Rhino on my first playthrough? So I did some math and have a look at my spreadsheet. According to my terrible math, if I don't buy any weapons throughout the entire game, I should have about 110,000 bolts saved up. That's not including any extra bolts you pick up during a normal playthrough. So, theoretically, if you just don't buy any weapons, you might be able to get the Rhino by the end of the game. The only question being, how late in the game can you get the Rhino? There is only one rule for this: no grinding for bolts. Our story begins as any other in Veldin. First level game, nothing too difficult. I go get Clank and accidentally forget to grab some bolts and head off to Novalis. While in Novalis, we try to get as many bolts as we can, including some gold bolts, because why not? And then we run into our first problem with this challenge. In order to progress onto new planets, we need to spend bolts to buy infobots. They're not too expensive. This first one is about 2,000 bolts, and it gives us access to the planet Iridia, which we'll visit later. For now, we go save a guy who gives us a brand new ship and the coordinates for Kerwan. We travel over the Kerwan, vandalize some lamps for some spare bolts, kill some robot dogs and their owners, run under a helicopter because we are too fast for them, and spend yet another 1,000 bolts for the helipack. Unfortunately, the helipack is required in order to complete the game, but thankfully it is only 1,000 bolts, which we can easily make up. After getting the helipack, we hitch a ride on train, kill some passengers, and obtain our next planet, Eudora. But before that, I jump off a cliff. You know, for money. There's a few bolts under here. Next location on our trip is Iridia. We use our trusty wrench to kill some sharks. We get our first free gadget in the form of a hoverboard from Skid, and we neglect everything else on this planet. Over on Eudora, we kick some bots' butts for even more bolts, try saying that 3 times fast, and eventually get our second piece of weaponry, the suck cannon, just lying around in perfect condition. In order to progress the game, unfortunately we do need a trespasser, which requires a swing shot. So we go back to Core 1, complete the course, grabbing as many bolts as I can, and at the end of the course, Helga charges us another 1,000 bolts for the swing shot. We take our swing shot back to Iridia for the trespasser. Once we got the trespasser, we go say hi to Skid's agent, who has a deal for us. If we can bring him back some kind of trophy from the hoverboard race, he will agree to sponsor us. We do kind of need this sponsorship because, as a signing bonus, we get an important gadget that we will need later on. Back on Eudora, we use the trespasser and the swing shot to get the infobot taking us to the Blug tactical station. We do some murder at this station, grab a hydro displacer, kill a giant mutated thing with bombs, and buy the grind bolts for another 2,000 bolts. That's with the employee discount. After blowing up a random ship, we gain access to Blackwater City. At Rilgar, we traverse some sewers, which takes us to another large spend. This bouncer won't let us progress the game without a small donation of 4,000 bolts. We pay the toll, which leads us to Umbris, We then win the hoverboard race for a Zoomerator. We take the Zoomerator back to Skid's agent for the Sonic Summoner. We can use the Sonic Summoner to summon little sand mice to shoot on our behalf without a single bolt spent. Now, this is when things start to get a little difficult. Umbra starts with this whole obstacle course, including mines, turrets, and these little bomb barrage things. All they require is some timing, so we can slide past pretty easily. Just a hop, skip, and a jump later, and we make it to our next boss just in time for dinner. Unfortunately, I did forget to record the actual boss fight, as well as the planet Battalia and the planet Gaspar. Now we're on Prokitaru, well, the end of Prokitaru. Basically, on planet Gaspar, we got this helmet to fly a ship, but to open the garage for the ship, we need to spend 2,000 bolts. So we have to buy the upgrade for 2,000 bolts. We save Prokitaru and leave for planet Auxon with our brand new O2 mask. The gimmick on Auxon is the sleeping dudes that won't wake up unless we make some noise by destroying the force field. Or these blue dudes that scream, so we need to kill them before they wake anyway. With a small handful of failed attempts and a dash for our lives, we get our next infobot for our next planet. We then return to planet Battalia, use the local mouse to kill tanks, meet the plumber again for a turret section, who gives us a metal detector. We can use this to find some loose bolts every now and again. Then we leave for planet Hoven, where I take this optional route to meet this miner. He's not important, you can forget him. What is important here is behind these crates, our friendly Sand Mouse. He shows everyone what's what before we have a mad rush for another turret section. Leading this takes us to Gemlik Moonbase, which is the hardest section of this whole run. As the help desk lady was happy to tell me after every single death,
those pulsing towers control the force fields. In order to knock them all out, you're going to need the Gagatron Devastator or the
the first tower was very easy to knock down using a shot from my sucker cannon. The other one, however, wasn't quite within reach. Now, it seemed like our run ended here. That was until some quick googling where I found someone play Ratchet & Clank using only the wrench, linked down below. Using that video as a reference, I used some out-of-bounds cheese to rush to the end where we have another ship section to knock out Quark for good. After that, we reach planet Altanis, which was mostly a mad dash until we get our friend. You know him, you love him, it's the Sand Mouse. He takes care of a small handful of enemies before we come across another dirty salesman who charges us yet another 2,000 volts for an infobot, which he claims was half price. Obviously, we have no choice but to buy it, which takes us to Planet Quartu. Planet Quartu is pretty easily, we just knock out the enemies, unlock Giant Clank, which punches some other giants into oblivion. And then we can leave for Kalebo 3. Kalebo 3 consists of mostly mad dashes, locked room test dummies, and the end, which was a bit of a predicament. See, you're supposed to stand on the ledge and use your blaster to shoot targets and use your swing shot to swing to victory. Unfortunately, we don't have the blaster, and none of our other weapons can hit target. Except, if you stand in this perfect spot, you can actually throw your wrench to hit the target, quickly spin around, swing up, and then spin around again to swing onto the grind to move on to the next room, which is a huge plane you have to run past and hope you don't get hit. We clear that, and then there's another hoverboard race, which once we do, we have to head back to Quartu. Over on Quartu, we use our ninja-like stealthing to sneak past these dumb robots into the factory where we meet Clank's mum and sister. we bid our farewells to the happy family and take Clank to Drek's fleet. This fleet consists of mostly sneaking around, a plane section, and another info boss taking us to Velden, the last planet in the game, with nowhere near enough bolts to... What happened? You saw the spreadsheet. We should have a lot more bolts than I currently have. And I can't physically progress any further without either buying more weapons or more health. So this challenge is just a bust. Unless I go grind more bolts, which goes against my one and only rule. Did I miss some important bolts, or was this doomed from the start? Regardless of whether I wasted my time or not, I did enjoy playing Ratchet & Clank again and doing this challenge. And if you enjoyed watching, you could always subscribe. It's free, and also that like button looks really good when pressed. Maybe check that out.